Somewhere right now, someone making $500,000 a year is refreshing their banking app with the exact same knot in their stomach as someone making $40,000. That's not an exaggeration. 40% of people earning over $500,000 a year say they're living paycheck to paycheck. That's a higher rate than people earning $50,000 to $100,000. And here's the part almost nobody puts together. There's one specific income bracket where people struggle the least, and it's not the top. It's $200,000 to $300,000. Only 16% of people in that range say they're paycheck to paycheck. Go above it or below it, and the number climbs fast. So this was never a poor people problem. It's barely even a rich people problem. It's a brain problem. And today, I'm going to show you the 4 invisible mental traps causing it. The same 4 that are draining a guy named Jordan's account every single month. I'm saving the most important one for last because it's the one almost no financial advisor will ever actually explain to you. And it's probably the real reason this keeps getting worse instead of better. Meet Jordan. Jordan makes $118,000 a year. Good job. No drama, no gambling problem, nothing dramatic going on. It's Friday. His direct deposit hits at noon. Within 48 hours, he spent $340 he hadn't planned on spending. Dinner out Friday night. A couple of things he'd been eyeing online, drinks with friends. Saturday. By Monday morning, he's watching his account balance like it's a countdown timer again. Jordan isn't broke by any normal definition. He just can't seem to hold on to any of it. If that sounds familiar, stay with me. Because what's happening to Jordan isn't what most people think it is. A PNC Bank survey of over 1,000 US workers found that 67% now say they're living paycheck to paycheck, up from 63% the year before. And this isn't new. It's not a post-pandemic blip. The share of U.S. workers living paycheck to paycheck rose from 31% in 1997 to 46% in 2023. A 15-point climb over 26 years. This is a slow structural shift that's been building for decades. And the generational gap makes it sharper. Millennials and Gen Z report living paycheck to paycheck at nearly 2.5 times the rate baby boomers do. But, and this is the part that matters for Jordan, the problem isn't purely external, because when income goes up, the paycheck to paycheck rate doesn't reliably go down. Remember that U-shape from the beginning. That's where Jordan's real issue lives, not in his income, in his brain. Let's talk about the literal moment Jordan gets paid, the first 48 to 72 hours after that deposit lands. Researchers have actually studied this and given it a name, the payday consumption cycle. Households consume more in the short window right after payday, often excessively and impulsively, and then pull back later in the month. It's not random. It's not a personality flaw. It's a documented behavioral pattern. And it shows up at almost every income level. Think about Jordan's Friday. He's been tight all week, saying no to things. The deposit hits and his brain registers relief. Suddenly, everything feels affordable. The $60 dinner doesn't feel like a splurge. It feels like a reward. The $80 online order doesn't feel impulsive. It feels like he's finally catching up. By Sunday, he's already spent $340 he hadn't planned on. The fix: build the budget the day before payday, not after. Assign every dollar a job before your brain gets a chance to feel rich. The window between paycheck lands and brain goes into spending mode is shorter than you think. If you don't have a plan in place, you'll improvise one in real time, and the improvised version is always more expensive. Jordan tries this. It works. For about 2 weeks. Then something throws it off. Jordan works overtime 1 week. Slightly bigger check than usual. An extra $210. Instead of treating that money the same as his regular paycheck, he treats it completely differently. Nicer restaurant. Something he'd been putting off. It feels like a treat, not a part of the plan. This has a name too, mental accounting. The way your brain sorts money into different buckets depending on where it came from, even though a dollar is a dollar no matter the source. Research shows people consistently treat windfalls, bonuses, tax refunds, overtime pay as fun money while treating their regular paycheck as bill money. Same amount, completely different behavior. It's exactly why tax refund season looks the way it does. People get back $1,200 and spend it on something they'd never buy with $1,200 from a regular paycheck. Same money, different mental label. The label decides how it gets spent. The fix. Every dollar goes through the same system, regardless of where it came from. Jordan's overtime check now follows the exact same allocation rule as his regular paycheck because the source doesn't change the math. Here's something even more invisible. When Jordan taps his card, the transaction doesn't register the way it would if he handed someone cash. Behavioral economist Dan Ariely's research found people spend more with credit cards, specifically because the brain doesn't fully register the immediate cost of a card transaction. There's a name for this too, the pain of paying, and cards measurably reduce it. This isn't just cards make it easy to overspend. It's a documented psychological effect. The tap takes less than a second. No visual of money leaving, no object changing hands. So the cost doesn't get factored into the next decision or the one after that. It compounds with something called anchoring bias. If Jordan is used to paying $6 for the coffee, a $4 one feels like a deal. Not just neutral, an actual win. His brain registers save $2, even though the option that saves the most is not buying it at all. This is how people feel financially responsible while still bleeding money on discounted things they didn't need in the first place. The fix. For card spending, add friction, a 24-hour rule on non-essential purchases. If Jordan still wants it tomorrow, he buys it. Most of the time, the impulse passes. For anchoring, stop comparing prices to each other and start comparing them to your actual goal. That $4 coffee isn't a deal versus the $6 one. It's $80 a month if he buys one every weekday. Is $80 a month worth it? Maybe, but that's the real question, not is this cheaper than the alternative. This is the one I told you about at the beginning, the one almost nobody names, and the one that quietly cancels out everything else Jordan's doing right. It's called moral licensing, and it works like this. Your brain keeps an informal ledger of your recent behavior. Do something virtuous. Work overtime, skip a purchase, pay off a bill, and your brain logs it as a credit. Then it quietly uses that credit as permission to indulge, not consciously. You don't think, I was good yesterday, so I can be bad today. It just happens. The spending doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like balance. Jordan does this constantly. He skips buying lunch 3 days straight and feels genuinely disciplined. Thursday, he goes out for a dinner that costs more than all 3 lunches combined. And it doesn't feel like a setback. It feels like a reward because his brain framed it as one. This is why Jordan can follow every rule in this video perfectly for 2 weeks and still end up back at zero. Discipline doesn't cancel out moral licensing. Discipline is the thing that fuels it. The better he behaves, the bigger the credit his brain thinks he's earned. The fix. The moment you feel like you've earned a splurge, that feeling is data, not a green light. Pause. Ask whether it's real or whether it's moral licensing talking. Sometimes the answer is still yes, spend it, but make it a conscious choice, not an automatic one. Here's why the title of this video isn't hyperbole. Almost 70% of workers say they feel optimistic about their retirement. At the same time, roughly 60% expect to outlive their savings. Read that again. Most people feel good about retirement and expect to run out of money before they die. That's not optimism, That's denial wearing optimism's clothes. Consumer prices have risen roughly 25% over the past 5 years, outpacing wage growth for most households. That gap isn't closing on its own. And the longer the payday spike, the mental accounting, the pain of paying gap, and moral licensing all run unchecked, the more they lock in around you. A forgotten subscription here, a car payment that felt fine when you signed it, a rent increase you absorbed without adjusting anything else. Each one is manageable alone. Together, they become the walls of a box that gets harder to get out of. So here's the actual plan, for Jordan and for anyone who recognized themselves in the last 10 minutes. Intercept the payday spike. Build the budget the day before payday, not after. Kill mental accounting. Every dollar, overtime, bonus, refund, regular pay follows the same rule. Add friction to card spending. 24-hour rule on non-essentials. Compare purchases to your goal, not to a more expensive version of the same thing. Catch moral licensing in real time. The feeling of, I earned this, is a signal to pause, not a green light. None of this is about deprivation. Jordan doesn't need to stop enjoying his money. He needs to stop letting his brain make financial decisions on autopilot. Because right now, the autopilot is running 4 different programs that all point in the same direction. Spend now, figure it out later. The guy at the start of this video was watching his bank account drain every 2 weeks, wondering where it went. What changed isn't his income. What changed is that he now has names for what was happening to him. Once you can name something, you can actually do something about it. Drop a comment. Which of the 4 traps hit closest to home? The payday spike, mental accounting, the pain of paying, or moral licensing? I'm genuinely curious because the answer is different for almost everyone, and it changes which fix matters most for you. And if this was useful, send it to your Jordan.